Hello, guys. Today we're going to learn about the simple past tense. When we talk about the simple past tense, we refer to actions that happened at a specific time in the past. That means that the action started in the past and finished in the past. When it comes to simple past, we need to mention that we have regular and irregular verbs. Regular and irregular verbs. Regular verbs are the ones that take the past form by adding ed. And irregular verbs are the ones that take the past form in a different form, in a different way. Irregular verbs have a different spelling in present and in past. There are some verbs that have the same spelling, but they continue being irregular verbs. Yep. Regular verbs, as I told you, are the ones that take ed to have the past and the past participle form. Now let's talk a little bit about structures. And we're gonna study about affirmative sentences. The structure of an affirmative sentence is the subject plus the verb in past plus the complement. It's necessary to mention that the verb in past is used with all the subject pronouns. So you don't have any differentiation or when you conjugate the subject pronouns with a verb. This is totally different as when we mention or when we study the past of verb to be. There we have some distinctions when we conjugate the subject pronouns and the verb to be. But here, guys, in the past simple, we use all the subject pronouns with the verb in the past form. There are some rules that we need to apply to the verbs to transform them from present to past. It's necessary to realize that we apply these rules only in affirmative sentences. Don't apply these rules in negative sentences or questions, only in affirmative sentences with all the subject pronouns. The first rule says that we add ed to most verbs. For example, start the letter or the word, the verb in white is the base form of the verb. And here you have the suffix ed for all these verbs. So here you are adding ed to have the past form of the verb. Verbs ending in letter E add only d. Live, lived, care, cared, died, died, date, dated, and shared, shared. Can you see? Verbs ending in a consonant plus letter Y, you change letter Y and to an I and add ed. Focus on this, guys. We have this verb, pray, pray, pray. You don't have the pattern that says consonant plus Y. You have here a vowel plus a Y. For that reason, you don't change letter Y to ed. But with these verbs here, dry, cry, marry, and there are some more verbs that share this pattern. They have a consonant, in this case, letter R and letter Y. When you have this pattern, you need to change letter Y to an I and add ed. So can you see? Dry, dried, cry, cried, marry, married. And again, guys, if the verb has a vowel and letter Y, you only need ed. Play plus ed. Stay, ed. Destroy, ed. Because you have a vowel and letter Y. One syllable verbs ending in a consonant, consonant, vowel, consonant, consonant, vowel, consonant, double the final consonant and add ed. Here are some examples. Stop, stop. And you see letter T is a consonant, letter O is a vowel, and letter P is a consonant. Rough, consonant, vowel, consonant. Love, consonant, vowel, consonant. And this is the pattern shared by all these verbs. When you have this kind of verbs, you add double consonant. You add double consonant and then ed. Double consonant and then ed. Exceptions. Exceptions to this rule. Everything has an exception. And the exception to this rule here is that you don't double the final consonant when the verb ends in W or X. For example, look at this. You have, even though you have consonant, vowel, and consonant, you don't double the final consonant because of the exception. It ends in letter W. So, wow, you only need ed. Mixed ed, Jenks ed, meow ed, bow ed, because of the exception. What happens when you have two or two syllable verbs? Two syllable verbs ending in consonant, vowel, consonant. You need to double the consonant too. All right, but not always, not always. Look at this, guys. Focus on this part. You have remit. Met, the final sound is underlined, and the final sound is underlined because here you have a stress, or this sound is stressed. So you don't say remit, you say remit, remit, permit, permit, occur, occur, prefer. So these verbs show two patterns. The first pattern is that they end in consonant, vowel, consonant. The second pattern is that they have the stress in the final syllable, in the final sound. If you have this kind of verbs, you need to double the consonant. Here, for example, double T, double T, double R, double R. Look at these verbs here. Answer. This verb ends in consonant, vowel, consonant, but you don't double the consonant because the stress is in the first syllable. Answer. Answer. You don't say answer. Answer. No, you say answer. Answer. So for that reason, you don't need to double the consonant. Happen, listen, open. All right? Negative sentences. The structure for negative sentences is the subject plus auxiliary. Here we use the complete form that is didn't, did not, I mean, or didn't, which is the contraction. You can use did not or didn't according to the context. In formal context, you use the complete form. In informal context, you use the contracted form, didn't. And you have only did for all the subject pronouns, for all the subject pronouns. And here, guys, you need the verb in base form. Never write the verb in past form. I didn't found, for example. No, that's not correct. The verb is always in base form. As I mentioned, we use the rules only in affirmative sentences. We use ed only in affirmative sentences. In negative sentences, you don't write the verb in simple past because you already have an auxiliary. Yep, so subject plus auxiliary in negative form plus the verb in base form and a complement. For example, I didn't phone you yesterday. Now let's take a look at yes/no questions. In yes/no questions, the first thing we write is the auxiliary. The auxiliary, did. Did is the past of do and does. Did works with all the subject pronouns. as you can see here. Plus the base form of the verb. Can you see? So did you phone, did you work, did you play? Guys, never write did you worked, did you phoned, did you played. No, that's not correct. Because the past form of the verbs are only in affirmative sentences. Don't write the past form of the verbs in negative sentences or questions, because you already have an auxiliary. So did you phone Andy yesterday, for example? Again, guys, auxiliary did plus subject pronoun plus the base form of the verb plus a complement and the question mark. Whenever you have yes/no questions, you need short answers to answer them. If the answer is if affirmative, for example, did you work yesterday? If the answer is affirmative, yes plus subject plus the auxiliary did. Don't forget that we use a comma after yes. So yes, I did. Did Wilson work yesterday? Yes, he did. Did Wilson and Catherine work yesterday? Yes, they did. If the short answer or if the answer to the yes/no question is negative, you use no plus comma plus subject plus the auxiliary in negative form. Did you travel to the United States yesterday? If it's negative, no, I didn't. Did he work in London yesterday? No, he didn't. You can also write long answers in affirmative form. Did you travel to the United States yesterday? Yes, I did. I traveled yesterday. So this is another possible answer that you can use. Long answers. But the most common, guys, the most common is to use first the short answers. And then you can add an affirmative sentences, which is part of the long answer. But can you see again here? You have a short answer and then an affirmative sentence to complement the answer. Long answers in negative form. The same thing, guys. You have no plus subject plus didn't. So first of all, the short answer, and then a sentence in negative form. And these are long answers. Now let's talk about information questions. In information questions, we have first the WH word. The WH word plus the auxiliary did plus subject plus the base form of the verb plus the complement and the question mark. Here you need to know what's the meaning of the WH word to know what to ask for. If you don't know the meaning of the WH words, you won't be able to ask the information you need. For example, you have, what did you do yesterday? What did you do yesterday? Where did he play soccer last month? In every grammar tense, we have time expressions. And here we are the time expressions for the simple past. And this is really important because in some tests, you have these expressions within the test. If you look at these expressions, you automatically will know that the answer is in simple past or the verb is in simple past. These are the time expressions, guys. Last night, last Sunday, last week, last weekend, last month, last year. You can also use the expression ago. 1 hour ago, 3 days ago, a week ago, a month ago, a year ago. Yesterday, yesterday morning, yesterday afternoon, yesterday evening, the day before yesterday. Or you can also use preposition in plus years from the past. For example, in 2018, in 2010, in 2014, in 2018. Where were you? No, what did you do yesterday? I traveled yesterday. Another example, I traveled to the United States 3 months ago, a month ago, a week ago. I traveled to London in 2018. I traveled to the UK in 2014. So these time expressions are really important, guys, to help you identify that you are working in simple past. Now, let's talk about irregular verbs. It's vital to know that we don't add ed to form the simple past of irregular verbs. They have a different spelling. For example, bring, brought, ring, rang, sing, sang, and sting, stung.